Dr. Jazz.
Thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Jazz.
All right. Yeah, cool. No
yeah,
problem.
just want to browse a little through what you've done and what you will do still. So
Yeah.
I'll just dig in. You know, I wanted to ask you, like, I listened on YouTube, like there are some latest record live gigs from you
Yeah.
with your bands, and one from Leeds is really killing. And is this like some new stuff that you're also preparing? And what's on this department, the leading a band happening there?
Well, there's a new recording I'm working on.
Hmm.
And I did a tour last autumn, and that's coming out in July. And we're
Okay.
gonna launch it. We're gonna launch it at Ronnie Scott's on the 20th of July. So it's entitled "Songs for Sisters, Brothers, and Others."
Okay, that's nice.
Which is self-explanatory, I guess. It's for my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you write originals? I mean, original music, or?
Yeah. It's everything is original other than my arrangement of Billie Holiday's "God Bless the Child."
Oh, wow, super.
Yeah.
Amazing. And it's the same band that you toured with, or?
Well, no, but there's a small pool of musicians that I work with in the UK.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be the same guy on the video you may have seen.
Yeah.
But I have some very special guests on this thing. It's people like Soweto Kinch, the alto player.
Oh, really?
Sure,
oh, wow, beautiful. Sure.
Yeah, Byron Wallen, the trumpeter. Dennis Rollins, the trombonist, and Jason Rebello,
Oh, sure. Beautiful.
piano player.
Yeah.
And two younger players, but you know, people who are rapidly making a name for themselves at the moment. The drummer is Ben Brown, who is a band leader in his own rights. And the bassist is Mutali Chashi.
Oh, I don't know him. Okay.
Who, again, yeah, he's well, they're relatively, they've been on the scene a few years now, you know, so they sort of like making their name, you know.
You're taking now over the role what you've done with Art, basically.
Yeah. Well, you have to, you know, to
Sure.
keep this music alive, you got to pass it on, you know. You got to train the new musicians coming up to keep it going, you know, because it needs to be, you know, you can't just sit on your knowledge, you know, you gotta pass it on.
When you're leading a band, let's say with the younger guys, how would you describe yourself as a band leader?
As a band leader, well, I think I'm an easy person to work with.
Okay,
I don't.
That's good.
I tend to choose musicians that I can rely on, that I have confidence in.
Yeah.
You know, that I know can do the job. And then I give them the opportunity to express themselves, you know, as opposed to tell them what to do. If I got to tell somebody what to do, then that's almost like putting me in a more of a classroom teaching role, you know.
Sure.
On the bandstand, it's a different thing. You know, you need people who are confident and know what they're doing already. And then you just allow them to express themselves within the music.
Yeah.
So that's what I attempt to do.
Yeah.
When I'm doing this, you know, thing.
Yeah, it's like usually when you talk to band leaders, everyone is like, you know, yeah, okay. No words, you know, people rarely discuss music, actually. Just here's the lead, sheet, play it, and
it's through the sound, you know. It's that's the thing about this music, is self-expression.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to be good at expressing yourself to be effective, you know. So that's why I tend to try to get guys who are, you know, bold and can make these adventures sort of come to life, You know,
Yeah.
that's what it should be like, an adventure, you know, playing together.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that you basically wrote everything for the new one, and I listened to Brother Raymond a lot, and you know,
Oh, okay.
you wrote such beautiful music, and
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Wow.
you know, already in the past, like those records with Tain and Robert Hurst, and even the early ones. I mean, I have a couple, and I always loved how you compose. And what's your principle like for composing for the new record, or even for the last one? I mean, do you sit down on a piano? Like, do you play
Yeah. Just
horn,
go to the piano.
Oh, okay.
I go to the piano. Well, it comes to me in different ways. Sometimes it comes through the horn, you know, but that's rare. It's more going to the piano and playing and seeing what ideas develop, you know, or what ideas come about,
Yeah.
which can later be developed into songs, you know. So it's a kind of organic process, you know. It's a natural way of composing, you know. It's you know, I'll have an idea and I'll say, well, I wonder what would happen if I put this with this and that with that and combine things, you know. So, and then I've loads of ideas already. I record myself all the time.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
And then I could go back into that and take things out of there and work on them and develop them, you know.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I might be walking down the street and an idea comes to me. I'll just put it on my phone, you know. That's the great thing about having all these
nowadays.
things in your pocket.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, we didn't have that kind of stuff. We had cassette recorders, but you know, I guess in a sense we had it, but not as sophisticated as it is now, you know.
Yeah. Now you can have like 300 ideas and like.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you go then? I mean, with your music, it's many times it's the melody is so important. I think, you know, especially on ballads. When I listen, you write such beautiful melodies, and then on top you do the horn arrangements and all.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, working with Art Blakey, the great thing that Art taught us was not just about our role as maybe like the tenor player or the alto player or trumpet, but he taught us how to run a band. You know, we had to arrange for the band, we had to compose for the band. So it's basically, it was band leading training.
Yeah, that's
while
the best.
you know, so that, you know, we all took to that, you know, and we all, everybody that went through that band started writing their own music, you know, hopefully before they got there, but if not, then when they got there, they did. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, that has stayed with me. And that's the only way to sort of express yourself is by playing your own music, because you can cover everything and play standards and stuff, but that's, you know, that's one side of it, I guess. And that's a part that you should know how to do as well.
Yeah.
But the ultimate joy of this music is in expressing yourself through your own compositions and trying to write compositions that will sort of reach an audience. You know, you want to speak to an audience, and if you can do it with your own music, it's an even more powerful way of doing it. You know.
Yeah. So, right. Yeah, playing original music. That's it. I mean, I loved it too.
Yeah. That's why.
I wanted to ask you this. You know, you mentioned playing standards and the Walkman. So like early 70s for you or mid 70s. You know, there came all this fusion wave, of course, with Herbie and
that's got me into the music.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you what got you actually excited for improvisation or jazz? I mean, what were do you remember the moment, an album or?
Yeah. The first guys I got into was Grover Washington Jr.
Ooh, okay.
Ronnie Laws, Headhunters. You know, this is even before Miles, because I had heard about Miles, but I didn't know much about his music. You know, this is when I was a kid playing. You know, So I was playing the Crusaders,
Oh yeah.
Donald Byrd, and Blackbird. Those are big records around when I was a kid, along with all the soul and funk that like people like Sly Stone, James Brown, and Motown, Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye. I loved all that stuff, all that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I grew up on, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and then I got into jazz via Grover and Ronnie Laws and Herbie Hancock. And then that made me want to go even deeper, because once the improvisation thing hit, then I thought, well, where did this come from?
Yeah.
I had known a little bit about Duke Ellington and Charlie Parker, but it was just surface stuff. Once I got into that and started playing it and trying to make the sounds that I was hearing, I started going back, and started listening to as many things as I could. I mean, YouTube wasn't around at that time, so
sure, man.
So we didn't have the videos that the kids have today, which would have been incredible, So we just had to find whatever we could, see it on television when we could, there wasn't much of it on TV, but and we made do, and we had tape recorders, as I said, so we couldn't really slow things down, to take them off. You couldn't slow them down, because you slow it down, it's in a different key, So we had to do it in real time, which is a good way of doing it, because it got you quicker and it forced you to really develop your ears. Even though the things that you can slow down now, I think it's just a tool. I don't think it's cheating.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just a tool that you can use. The programs like Transcribe and all those other programs, it just makes things quicker.
Yeah.
So it's a tool that can be used. You still got to do the work. It's not going to do the work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still remember also. I think I was probably the last generation who also did the tape recorder thing. I remember, trying to catch a phrase like play, rewind, play, rewind. What is he playing? Like no.
And then the machine will eat your tape up.
Exactly, like with a pencil.
Pull it out. Yeah.
I love that, actually. It's when you talk about it, it sounds so romantic in a way. It's when you said you went back, did you go like to, I don't know, Lockjaw and Coleman Hawkins and Ben Webster, all these guys?
Yeah. Man, I love all those guys. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Coleman Hawkins, Prez, Lockjaw, Chew Berry,
wow.
Don Bias.
Oh yeah.
All the major tenor players. There, Dexter, of course. Sonny Stitt. As well as Rollins and Coltrane and Wayne Shorter, Joe Henderson. And Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker is you can't. I mean, you can't find enough to say about Charlie Parker.
That's right.
He influenced all those people, and then some. So and learning about this music, you need to know about those people, because you're not coming in and creating a new music. It's an already established art form.
Yeah.
So you need to learn the history of that art form to be effective, so that you can learn how to effectively do what your heroes, were doing, and then express yourself. Because in the thousands of great players that are out there, you listen, and I tell this to my students all the time, you listen and you say, well, there are thousands of musicians and they're all using the same information, but they all sound different. They all sound unique, and why is that? And we need to find that out. And I've checked that out. And the reason that they sound unique is because intervallically, that's where the differences come in, you see?
Yeah.
Even though harmonically they're using exactly the same information, intervallically they have their own way of. So we need to find the intervals that resonate with our personality. and then find how to use that within the history of the music, within the vocabulary of the music. You know, make that work so that you can sound like yourself, but still within the language, the music.
Yeah. It's also important. I mean, I teach as well. It's like to go back, like what you mentioned. You know, when I teach guitar to students, we go back to Charlie Christian and Oscar Moore and, you know, all these guys, like, like saxophone players shouldn't start with, I don't know, Joshua or Edmund. I mean, you know,
I know.
Go back, man. You know, like to all these guys that you
go back to the people that Joshua or Edmund listened to.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to the people that Dewey or Edmund listened to, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
And then see where they will take you, because this is where they've taken Joshua. You see?
Yeah, sure.
He's listened to them and checked them out, and this is what he's come out with. You know, if you just stop with Joshua and start with Joshua, then you're doing a disservice to yourself, because you don't know where you can take it. You're just taking it where he's taking it, and, you know, and it becomes, you know, sort of like, it's not the way to go. You know,
it's funny. It's like sometimes the younger generation is really like, I was teaching a workshop like 2 months ago, and there were some drummers, and, you know, I asked the drummer, he was really good. Like, okay, so who are you, you know, who do you listen to? Yeah, you know, like Jeff Ballard and Marcus Gilmer. And I was like, wow, that's super. You know, have you checked out, you know, Paul Motion, I don't know, Louis Hayes? And he was like, who? He didn't know these people. I was like, man, what do you mean?
You know, you should tell him the guys that Jeff Ballard.
Just write down, please.
Listen to,
60 names now. And, like, you know, like,
these are the guys that your heroes have listened to.
Exactly. You know, but that's important to give this.
There's a whole. You got to listen to the whole thing. You know, not just bits and pieces of it. You know. Which a lot of students, they get lost in that. They don't know what. For them, there's so much choice now as well.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
So much choice, you know. But, you know, regardless of the choice, you got to go back. And just check it out and listen and immerse yourself in it, you know?
Yeah, you'll appreciate it more, But
definitely.
Speaking of learning, I wanted to ask you, how did you end up on Berkeley? How
At Berkeley?
That story begin for you? I mean...
Well, for me, I grew up in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands, and I was playing calypso and reggae, and then, like I said, I got into Grover Washington and Ronnie Laws and the Crusaders, and I wanted to be, and I was really into James Brown and Maceo Parker and those guys, you know, and Earth, Wind and Fire and horn sections, you know. I really wanted that, you know. I saw myself as being in a band like Kool and the Gang or something. You know, one of those things, you know, and that's what I grew up with. That's what I was, you know. But then I got to Berkeley, and I heard Dexter Gordon, and you know, and I started listening to Dexter Gordon, Wayne Shorter, George Coleman, you know, Joe Henderson, and I forgot all that other stuff. You know, I just went down that path, and that was it. You know, once you got bitten by that bug,
oh man, then it's over.
You can't help you can't help yourself. You got to do it, you know. And it's not about trying to get rich on it. If you can make a living from playing this music, then that's a plus. Because you don't have a choice but to play it, whether you make money from it or not. You know, hopefully you make money to sustain yourself, because if you don't, then you got to take a day job. You know, but that's the thing, you know, it's you don't have a choice anymore. The music takes over, and it pushes you in the direction that you need to go to, you know. And so I went to Berkeley, and that started happening right away. I started studying with Billy Pierce.
Oh man, yeah.
You know, he became my mentor, and he taught me a whole lot. He taught me, one of the most important things he taught me was not what to play, but how to learn. How to learn. He taught me how to learn, you know, and how to approach learning things, you know. because you got a lot of teachers, they give they spoon feed
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
They give them exactly what to do. It's not what to do, but how to do it.
Yeah.
Which is what you should be teaching, because what to do is, if you're teaching them what to do, that's been done already. It's how to do it, so that they can come up with it on their, for themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's I really appreciate that Billy taught me how to do that, and then he also helped me get the gig with Art Blakey once he was ready to leave. He thought I was ready, so he said, "Come on, come audition." And he
How was that
there.
Like, the audition?
Oh man, that was scary. That was scary. The cartoon things where, when somebody's scared and you see their knees shaking.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was real until that moment. Until that moment, I thought that was just a cartoon thing, and that really happened to me. I was like, wow. I experienced that for the first time, that kind of fear, being standing in front of Art Blakey,
But what did you have to play? I mean, who was there?
Oh, we just play the blues. You just play the blues.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not about, about putting you on the spot. It's just putting you, so you play something that definitely,
Yeah.
And I was able to get the gig, and I kept for over 4 years, which was a long time.
That's a long time.
And I learned a lot from that, and traveled the world with him. We played everywhere.
You were like what, 21, right, or 22 when you got the
yeah, early 20s,
Wow.
early 20s, yeah.
Wow.
And so yeah, that was incredible, because coming from that school environment in Boston to that, traveling the world, it was night and day. From one day you're a student doing this and that, and the next you go into Paris, you go,
That's crazy.
Yeah, for the first time,
Where was the first
incredible
place you went with Art, actually?
The first place I went with Art was outside of the United States. We went to England, and we played in Newcastle. We did a TV show in Newcastle.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. We didn't even play in London. We just went to England, went up to Newcastle, did this TV show, and then from there we went over to Europe and did some gigs.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah.
How was he like to you guys, to the younger guys? I mean, obviously he forced you. I mean, like, he pushed you to write music, but still, like, as a band leader, how because he had like an amazing band of you guys in early 20s. I mean,
Art was an incredible band leader because he required that you do your best. A lot of band leaders, their ego kind of get in the way of the music.
Yeah.
And if they have a person that they've hired that is doing really well and getting praise, then they kind of like get messed up about that and start to get jealous about it. And for Art, the music was the most important aspect of us being on that bandstand, and we had to do our best. And he was so confident in himself. He had so much, and by the time I got to him, he was already a legend of legend, a legend of legends. He was already that. So he wasn't afraid of anybody shining and outshining him, because that was impossible, So he required that we do the best that we can. And that kind of environment, you can only grow.
Yeah.
Because you're being encouraged to do your best, and you're being taught by one of the best ever in the business, so it was, you couldn't go wrong if you really listen and adhere to the lessons that he would give, and he taught it all through the music. He never really verbally explained anything. It was all through playing. So all his cues were playing cues. And you learn those cues pretty quickly from, after a couple of months, you knew, how to go, what to do, when he wanted you to raise your solo or when he wanted you to stop or, or when he wanted you to play on, he did all the different cues that sort of taught you how to do that. And we learned from that. We learned all those things we can take and put into compositions, And so he was teaching us how to write. He was teaching us how to play. He was teaching us how to perform. He was teaching us how to communicate to the audience.
Yeah, that's
all through the music. All through the music, and that's you don't have those kind of bands anymore. I mean, it's gone now.
Yeah,
and it's up to us, the guys who were messengers, to pass that knowledge on to new players coming up. That's the only way they're gonna get it now.
Yeah.
Because you don't have those bands like Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers going around anymore.
Yeah.
That's all finished.
Yeah.
So it's up to us to
carry that on. Yeah,
to keep it going. Yeah.
It's like your generation still had that chance, and maybe one to play with Alvin and Art, the original fathers of music, actually. So that's
definitely,
that's a privilege to do that. I wanted to ask you, like, how did you decide not to stay in New York and move to London, since you kind of already, started making a name with Art?
Yeah, well, when I left Art, I was okay. I'd played with him for over 4 years, and I was in a good place. I had gotten to know a lot of the scenes around Europe, France, Germany, England, Spain, Italy. And I left Art. When I left, shortly before me, it was Terrence Blanchard, and Donald Harrison, and they were really hot. They were coming off the tail of Winton and Branford, both from New Orleans. They were signed to the major labels. Mulgrew Miller was there. He was making his own thing, making his splash. When I left, I wasn't signed, so it was pretty rough for me. New York is hard.
Oh yeah, sir.
If you're not in that position, New York is hard. So I thought I better take advantage of all this stuff that Art has given me, and go around the world and see what I can sort of like, what kind of doors I can open up for myself, And I was invited over to London to do some teaching at a school called the Guildhall School of Music. And I came over and did that. And then they kept extending it. So I decided, because I wasn't going to stay in London, but because the job was extended, I eventually thought, okay, well, I'll just settle here. I don't have to learn a new language, which was a mistake. It might have been better if I went to France or something which would have forced me to speak something different, because the more languages you got, the better you can communicate, But I enjoyed being in England, and I loved it, and I learned a lot from being there. And I made a lot of great friends. I made a lot of great music, and so it's been good,
Definitely.
It's been good doing that.
I mean, everyone plays in Europe anyway, so that's in the end,
right.
all the good gigs are here. So, like,
all the good gigs.
I mean, you know what I mean. Like, all the well-paid gigs, kind of like I can play. I'll rephrase myself.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
But how did you decide to make Impressions of Coltrane? And
Impressions of Coltrane. Wow, man, you're taking me way back. That was the guy who recorded it. He had acquired the rights to Coltrane's music.
Okay.
For a certain period, and he wanted to sort of exploit that. So he thought, I'll just put the band together and we record a bunch of Coltrane tracks. And so it wasn't even my idea. It wasn't, so it was this guy. He just put us together, basically.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And he put us together with the great Kenny Washington
and
Ray
Ray
Drummond.
Drummond, exactly, man. That's like
Yeah.
it's killing. Yeah.
And I brought in Jason Rebello, who was 18 at the time.
Wow.
The piano player.
It's probably his first record, right?
One of them. Yeah. I had met him at the Guildhall, and brought him with me, to do this recording. And I mean, you've seen what he's done since then.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
he's played with everybody.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And he'll be on my new record, actually, man. And he's sounding brilliant on there.
Yeah, he's so good. Yeah, I love his playing. He's one of the best out there.
It's fantastic.
Was it difficult for you in the beginning to make a name as a band leader? Because you said you didn't sign with a label, but still, when I look at your career, you've done so much records, of course, since then. And
well, it wasn't difficult as a band leader because once I left New York, then things got a lot easier because of my track record with Art Blakey.
Yeah.
Because I was recognized as one of the jazz messages. Wow, so that kind of opened a lot of doors for me. But in New York, it was they weren't having it. It was hard. I was playing at the Blue Note. I was doing a jam at the Blue Note, for some time, which was good because I learned a lot doing that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't getting any gigs,
Good, yeah.
So I had to make things happen, and I'm glad I did.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
How
in your career as a band leader, how did you decide to? Blue Black. I love that record of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you decide, where to go usually, and let's say how to get a band together, like for that record, Tain and Anga and Robert Hurst and one of my favorite piano players all time, Mulgrew. I mean, how was Mulgrew also, and
well, Mulgrew was with us in Art Blakey's band, so I knew Mulgrew. We went way back, and Mulgrew was one of the nicest, as great as a player as he was one of the nicest guys that you would ever meet. He's one guy in my life that I know very well, and I have never heard him say anything negative about anyone. He was that kind of person. So he was, it was just a joy to be around him. The guy who ran the label, Xavier Felgerol, is a good friend of mine, and he's a good friend of Mulgrew's, Donald Brown. He was the one who sort of like chose, I know Tain, because me and Tain go way back. We were at Berkeley together.
Oh, really? I
was at Berkeley with Tain. Yeah, and he asked Tain and Robert Hurst to do it, and he brought me over to New York, and we did it there, and Mulgrew and Bill Mobley is a trumpeter who's also a good friend of Xavier. So Xavier had a lot to do with getting that record together. All I had to do was write the music. I just wrote some music, and he said, okay, these are the guys we're going to put together to do this record. I said, oh, great. I know Tain, I know Robert Hurst, I know Mulgrew. Anga, I didn't even know. He brought Anga in as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
I had met Anga with Eric Carey earlier on, but I hadn't really known him that time. And it was brilliant having him in the studio. I mean, he's passed now, but it was brilliant having him in the studio. He just came in and did it.
One of the greats,
Yeah, yeah. He was incredible.
Yeah. It's beautiful, man. Yeah. I love that record. It's so, I mean, already the rhythm section is just there burning and underneath.
Yeah.
Everything you do is just like,
yeah.
Digging it. I love
those
that.
guys, man. Those guys.
Beautiful,
Yeah, definitely.
Jean, I wanted to ask you also, I read somewhere, I don't know, maybe it was wrongly written that you played with McCoy also, Tyner?
Yeah, I did some gigs with McCoy's big band.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, his big band. So, I mean, in a sense, you kind of put everybody that you've worked down on your CV.
Oh, sure.
I did some gigs with Gil Evans. Yeah, I did some
Really?
gigs with Gil Evans' big band. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
good.
I've played with Horace Silver. I played with Max Roach.
Wow.
You know, I played with Freddie, played with Dizzy, you know.
Hmm.
So, you know, everybody that you play with, you just put them down, you know.
Oh, no,
But
no,
these
sure.
are just gigs. And there's no recordings
No, but
to
yeah.
sort of like, you know, but
It's not
these were
just
just
gigs. Come on, like Max Roach and Freddie Hubbard. I mean, this is like the
yeah,
greats, you know.
yeah.
Uh, how did these gigs happen, by the way? Like when you mentioned all these guys, like
Well, I mean, those guys, they know who's around, you know, they know the young musicians coming up, you know.
yeah,
So when your name comes across them, they say, "Oh yeah, that's the guy with Art. Yeah, okay, bring him in," you know. So, you know, you get that. So being in a band like the Jazz Messengers, it gives you a lot of credibility, you
yeah,
know, that
definitely.
if you're good enough for Art Blakey, then okay, you must be good enough for me then. You know? So, you know, a lot of times good things come from that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Were all these guys the same? Like kind of again talking about band leading, like as art, you know, Dizzy and Freddie.
well, no, Art was special in that sense, but they had similar things, you know. Yeah, you know, they were encouraging,
Yeah,
definitely. They were encouraging, they were helpful. They, I mean, if you had questions, they would try their best to give you effective answers,
okay.
you know. So yeah, they were all, you know, all the people I've met, all the greats that I've met and worked with, you know, they were always encouraging and open and ready to help you, you know.
Yeah, that's
That like
important.
people like Woody Shaw, you know, when
Mm.
I lived in New York, Woody was always around, you know, and I would go up and just bother him and you know, and then he turned around and said, "Yeah, steal everything and steal from the best." I was like, "Wow," you know,
Yeah,
Woody Shaw, one of the most unique musicians, you know, he says steal everything. You know?
yeah,
I mean, obviously he didn't mean steal,
yeah, sure,
because I
sure.
mean, because once you played it, it's no longer yours. It belongs to the world, you
Yeah,
know. So,
beautiful.
but he meant take it and internalize it.
Yeah, and
You know?
then make your own though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make it your own, because you see how unique Woody sounded, you know.
Oh man, all these guys. Yeah,
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 yeah. So
beautiful. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
it is. Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask you, like, for the upcoming year, for the remaining months, like you have a new record coming out. You already mentioned, but like,
Mm-hmm.
do you have some tours planned and gigs or festivals? Maybe coming close to the continent, like this part, Central Europe. Or...
Well, we'll see what happened. You know, it's been quite. I mean, especially after Brexit. You know,
Oh shit! Yeah, exactly.
it's quite
Yeah,
horrible to take a band from England to Europe.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. You need visas and stuff, right?
yeah, you need visas
Oh
now, and you
shit,
need
that's
this and
heavy.
that. I've been spending a lot of time in Spain. You know, so and I have a band over here that I
Oh
do
really?
some
Okay.
gigs with. Yeah,
Oh,
some
fantastic.
Spanish guys. David Gigu, great
Oh yeah, yeah,
Catalan
sure. Yeah,
drummer.
yeah, I know him.
You
Yeah,
know David?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
sure. Yeah, he's
incredible,
incredible. Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, and Antonio Maze is a piano player.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've been doing some things. But yeah, let's see what happens with this record. Hopefully, this record will get me to the point where I could tour across to the continent. You know, to Europe. You know, more.
Yeah.
I've been doing stuff over there with Kirk Lightsey, my great friend,
Really? Oh
Kirk,
wow.
pianist
Beautiful. Yeah.
in Paris. You know, but I don't get the chance to work on the continent as much as I would like to. I used to, like back in the day. You know, I did tours with Max,
Oh
as I
sure.
mentioned, Max Roach, Cedar Walton. You
Oh wow,
know,
really? Oh wow, that's beautiful. Man.
yeah, and you know, and some other things here and there. But I used to play with the great London British piano player Julian Joseph. We used to do some tours as well. But you know, hopefully this record will open that up.
Yeah.
You could only hope. You could only hope. You know,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, my
heavy.
records
Yeah.
are pretty good, well received, but they don't go as far as I'd like them to go. You know,
Yeah.
as far as distance, as far as places. You know, so it's
Yeah.
pretty hard to.
Especially after
Brexit.
COVID, also, it's quite.
After COVID and Brexit, it doesn't make it any easier. It just works against you,
Yeah.
So but we live in hope,
Oh,
that's all we can do. That's all we can do.
Where are you gonna release the new one?
It'll be released in England. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be released in England. We have a launch gig at Ronnie Scott's on the 20th of July.
Okay.
For this record, and it's entitled "Songs for Sisters, Brothers, and Others." Jean Toussaint plus guests: Soweto Kinch, Jason Rebello, Byron Wallen, Dennis Rollins, etc., etc.
Beautiful, man. Super.
Yeah.
Great, Jean. Thanks for sharing some of these things. I'll leave you a nice, what is today? Thursday in Barcelona. So have a nice coffee or something, So
all right, Samo. Keep up the good work, man. What you do is very important. It's great, man. It carries the music forward and makes it continue,
Yeah,
and exposes it to a lot more people, So thank you very much for your service.
Thank you for you taking the time and your music. So thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Ciao then.
All right. Take care, man.
You
Bye.
too.